antiprotozoal agents. So, what are antiprotozoal agents? So, antiprotozoal drugs are class of medication used to treat infectious disease caused by protozoa, which are single cell organisms that belong to the type of parasite. So, they are single cell microorganisms. Protozoa occurs in world and are major cause of morbidity and mortality in most of underdeveloped, because this infection is mostly found in underdeveloped uh, countries like Africa and Southeast Asia. This is more prevalent in such countries. So these protozoals are eukaryotic and they are unicellular, means they've got entire mechanism like our human cells only. Most of the proto infections are occurred due to unhygienic conditions. So this infection is basically caused due to unhygienic living conditions. Okay, less easily treated than your prokaryotes like bacterial infection, antiproto and anti are more toxic. Why they are more toxic? Because they have got these protozoal infections have got similar mechanism of action of that of your human beings. So some of the types of protozoal infection are amoebiasis, trypanosomiasis, giardiasis, leishmaniasis, trichomoniasis, malaria, and toxoplasmosis. So these are some of the protozoal infections that are present. So, so which are the and where this protozoal infection basically act? So in case of amoebiasis, they infect the intestines. In case of malaria, that is mosquito-borne infection caused by Plasmodium vivax or malaria species. Giardiasis is infection of small intestine. Leishmaniasis is a disease spread through bite of female sandfly. Okay. Toxoplasmosis is an infection due to parasite Toxoplasm gondii, and trypanosomiasis is a disease in what you caused by parasite protozoan trypanosomes. So these are some of the protozoal infection and where do they infect. Okay. So the next, this is leishmaniasis. So what is this leishmaniasis? Leishmaniasis is transmitted to human by female infected flies by biting pre-infected cats, dogs, and all. So this is from this infection is transmitted to humans by female infected flies which bite pre-infected cat's dog. So this disease is we get from the cat's dog which are pre-infected, and through flies this infection enters into our system, human system. So this is transmitted through cat's dog which are infected by leishmaniasis. Okay. There are different type of leishmaniasis, that is visceral leishmaniasis. They cause leishmania caused by Leishmania donovani. They invade reticuloendothelial cells, results in enlargement of your spleen, liver, lymph nodes, etc. So example is sodium, the drug which can be used is sodium stibogluconate. Okay, cutaneous leishmaniasis caused by Leishmaniasis brasiliensis, involves ulceration in your skins and lesions. American leishmaniasis caused by Leishmaniasis tropica, characterized by ulceration in mucus and membranes of your mouth. So it is an oral infection. This is an oral infection, oral buccal cavity infection, and drug of choice is antiammonicals. Okay, so these are the treatment for leishmaniasis. Now next class of infection is trypanosomiasis. So they are transmitted to humans from insects infected by protozoa Trypanosoma brucei. Types of trypanosomiasis is African trypanosoma caused by Glossiana species, mostly associated with sleeping sickness, associated with fever, headache, drowsiness, lymph enlargement. These pathogens enter into your CNS and cause mental disturbance. So they basically act on our cerebral system, on our brain. American trypanosomiasis caused by Trypanosoma cruzi. So these are some of the trypanosomal infection. Next is giardiasis. Okay, they are found in animals, and so where they are found? They are found in animal and human feces. They also thrive in contaminated food, water, and soil. The symptoms of giardiasis generally show up 1 or more 2 weeks after the exposure. So they grow inside. initially they'll be in the cyst form, then they will go in they'll multiply in your intestine, and then they will show the effect. So it takes minimum 1 or 2 weeks for the particular microorganism to grow and show its effect. So some of the symptoms are fatigue, nausea, diarrhea, greasy stool, loss of appetite, vomiting, bloating of your stomach, abdominal cramps, weight loss, excessive gas, headaches, and abdominal pain. Treatment: you will use metronidazole, paramycin, and tinidazole can be used for the treatment of giardiasis. Next is trichomoniasis. These are sexually transmitted diseases, causing in male causing urticariasis, and in female it causes vaginitis. If one partner is infected, the other partner as well will be infected by transmissions, sexual transmission. Balantitis caused by Balantius coli produces diarrhea similar to amoebiasis. Diarrhea which is similar to your amoebiasis. Now, as I mentioned, these protozoal infections are difficult to treat, okay, than your bacterial infection, because protozoals, they are eukaryotic, they have metabolic process closer to the human host than your prokaryotic bacterial pathogens. So since they have got an metabolic process, so it might interfere with our normal functioning of your human cells also. So and that's the reason why antiprotozoal drugs are toxic to the host. So, and most important thing is that antiprotozoal drug should not be prescribed during pregnancy. Should not be prescribed during pregnancy. Okay. So some of the antimicrobial class antiamoebic drugs like tissue amoebicide, luminal amoebicides, which we'll be explaining later. Drugs for metronidazole, nitazoxanide, quinidochlor, and furosemide. Drugs for treating trichomoniasis are metronidazole, diiodo, hydroxyquine, quinidochlor, povidone iodine. This can be used for trichomoniasis, that is skin infection. For leishmaniasis, you can do amphotericin B, meltifosine, sodium stibogluconate, and paramycin. So these are some of the drugs which can be used for antiprotozoal treatment. So this is the classification of the drug according to the types of infections. So now let's come to the amoebiasis, the topic which will be taken. Amoebiasis is a protozoal infection of intestinal tract. So it is an protozoal infection of the intestinal tract that occur due to ingestion of food and water which is contaminated by Entamoeba histolytica cyst. So this is an infection in your small intestine, in the intestinal tract, which is occurred due to contaminated food and water with your protozoa Entamoeba histolytica cyst. So this is amoebiasis. So the life cycle of amoebiasis consists of your cyst ingestion. First is a formation of tropocyte, penetration into the intestinal which leads to lesions, multiplication of tropocytes in the colon wall, and systemic invasion, and cyst formation in your rectum and excreted. So this is the life cycle of your protozoans, that is amoeba. Entamoeba histolytica. Now let's see how it diagrammatic. So first you take the contaminated food, they enter the stomach and then they go to the ileum. So they'll be in a cyst form to protect from the acidic environment of the stomach. So once they enter into your intestine, so once they enter into your intestine, they open up. The cyst open up to liberate your tropozoites, where they multiply into your tropozoite. These tropozoites which are formed, then they will infest the intestinal liver, where they multiply in the intestinal cell line, and then they enter into the liver by extrahepatic system. Okay, then through the systemic invasion they will infect the liver, and once they come out of the intestine, they go into the colon, they form a cyst. Why they form a cyst? Because the colon contains less of water, which is not favorable for them. So to protect against the harsh environment, this tropozoite will form a cyst around them, and then through the rectum they are expelled out in the cyst, which is then non-infective stage. So this is an cyst is the infective stage where they are protected, okay, and they are discarded out. And the expelled, the tropocytes which are not formed in a cyst, they are in non-infective because they are completely destroyed. Only the tropocytes which are in a cyst form, they can transmit to the another through the contaminated food. So this is your life cycle of your Entamoeba histolytica. So you should know that, and we have to see the phases for this: ingestion, formation of tropocyte, penetration into cell wall, that is the third line, and then multiplication of tropocyte in the colonal wall, and the fifth step is your systemic invasion, and last is your excretion of your cyst from through feces from the human body. So this is your complete life cycle, and these are some of the drugs which can be used. So systemic amebocytes like chloroquine, dihydroamidine, which are systemic amebocytes. Mixed amebocytes are nothing but luminal and systemic, metronidazole, and luminal amebocytes like diloxanate, for paramycin, and idoquine. They can be used for lumen. Why? Because they are only effective in your intestine and lumen. Okay, so that's where. So according to this, the site of actions, the drugs are classified. So this is your life cycle of your amoeba in your human being. And very important, this is asked in your exam. Explain the life cycle of your amoeba. So as I influence cyst is as I explained earlier, so this is the life cycle of your Entamoeba histolytica. So one, it exists in two forms, that is your cyst form. This is infective and can survive outside the human body and transform into your tropocytes when they enter the inside the intestine. Tropocytes are non-infective and invasive. They can reproduce, they can feed on intestinal bacteria and invade or ulcerate the walls of large intestine. They migrate to the liver or other tissues through portal veins, cause acute amoebic hepatitis, means the infection will be prolonged, and this is very dangerous. And they transform into the cyst in your colon and get excreted in your feces. So this is your life cycle of your Entamoeba histolytica. So through the portal, this is how they enter the systemic, through your portal vein. From the intestine, which supply, there is a portal vein which supply blood to your liver and the intestine. So they are connected. So this, through this system, through the colon walls, they enter the systemic portal vein and they infect the liver. So this is how your tropocytes infect your systemic organs like liver and other organisms. Okay. So mode of transmission, yeah, fecal-oral transfer through contaminated food, drinks, water, etc. Here the man is the host. Cyst of Entamoeba histolytica resist stomach acidity. The cyst form is very important. Only then only they will be stable in your acidic environment of the stomach, and they develop into the tropocytes in gut. So once they pass the stomach acidity, once they enter into the gut, they open up to release your tropocyte, causing invasive disease. And in the distal GIT, the tropocyte again gets converted into the, so in the small intestine it will be in free tropocyte form, but when they go to the distal GI, that is the end portion of your GIT, that is your colon, they get converted into this, probably due to the decreased water content. So when there is decreased content, they will get dehydrated and die. So to prevent that such drastic environment, they form a cyst around themselves and they are excreted to feces. And tropozoite cannot survive the adverse such as, but the cysts are able to tolerate. That's why they form a cyst to prevent against the harsh environmental condition to survive long. So this is your mode of transmission of your Entamoeba histolytica. So clinical presentations: asymptomatic intestinal infection, that is acute dysentery, carriers or passing of the cyst. So these are some of the clinical presentation. Mild to moderate intestinal disease, non-dysenteric colitis. Severe intestinal infection includes dysentery, hepatic abscess. This is one of the most dangerous. So local granulomatous lesions in the colon and other extra-intestinal system, and this is known as systemic invasion, where they invade the other organs of your body along with your intestine. So that is known as systemic amoebiasis, and this is more common, and this occurs for once your systemic amoebiasis occur, the treatment is little bit difficult because the person will be having prolonged stomach pain, dysentery, loose motions and all. So they'll always have a gastric irritation most of the time if there is an amoebic infection, systemic. So let us classify the anti-amoebic drugs. So as I mentioned, there are tissue amoebocyte and luminal amoebocyte. Tissue amoebocytes, both intestinal and extra-intestinal amoebiasis. Example are metronidazole, tinidazole and ornidazole. Alkaloids like amitin and dihydroamitin. And for extra-intestinal amoebiasis, means outside the intestine, that is chloroquine. Okay. So luminal amoebiasis, that means they act on the intestinal lumen. Example amide, that is diloxanate furet, nitazoxanide, 8-hydroxyquinoline like idoquinoline, and antibiotics like tetraquinoline and paramycin can be given for your as an luminal amoeba. What is it mean by luminal amoebocyte? They will act on the lumen within the intestine, small intestine, okay, on the tropocytes. So this will basically act on the tropocytes which are present in the lumen of your small intestine, okay. So this is how the drugs act. So what happens when the tropocyte, it will form ulcers and then they will enter into your bloodstream and go into your liver, causing liver abscess. So this is the classification of anti-amoebic drug. So as I mentioned, they are luminal amoebocyte, tissue or systemic amoebocyte and mixed amoebocytes. Okay. So what are the luminal amoebocytes? They act on the parasites in the lumen of the bowel. So where they act? They act on the parasites which are present in the lumen of the bowel, that is the cavity of the bowel. Used for the treatment of asymptomatic amoebiasis, that is initial symptoms. When there is a tropozoite which infects the intestine, which include drugs include halogenated 8-hydroxyquinolines, like chloroquine and idoquine, dichloroacetamide derivatives like your diloxanate furet, and organoarsenals like carbacenes and milasoprol. So these are the drugs, and antibiotics like paramycin, tetramycin and erythromycin. So these are the drugs which are used as luminal. So in exam they can ask you, give the example of luminal amoebocyte. So these are the classes of drugs which can be used as an luminal amoebocytes. So tissue amoeba, they act on, so this tissue or systemic amoebocytes, they act on the intestinal walls and the liver. So where does this tissue amoebocytes act? They act on the intestinal walls and the liver. So on the walls, intestinal walls, when the tropocyte enter the colon, colon membrane. So there this tissue amoebocytes are, whereas luminal amoebocyte does not act on this. So they are used for the treatment of systemic form of disease, that is intestinal wall infection and liver abscess. So these tissue amoebocytes are used for the treatment of the infection that infects the intestinal walls and cause liver abscess, that is systemic absorption effect. This include drugs like nitroimidazoles like metronidazole, tinidazole and secnidazole, and alkaloids like amitin and dihydroamitin, and chloroquine like antimalarial drugs can be used as a tissue amoebocyte, can be used as a tissue amoebocyte. And the mixed amoebocytes are effective against both luminal and as well as systemic form of disease. Although they are not given, although luminal concentration is too low for single dose, they are also given in combination. So metronidazole and tinidazole is always given in combination with any other antibiotics for the treatment in case of mixed amoebocytes. So these are the classification of your amoebocytes. sites. Now let's go for the first example. Let's go for the first example, that is dioxinate furet. So what it is? What is this dioxinate furet? So it is an dichloro acid anilide derivative. It's a dichloro acid anilide derivative. It's what? It's a dichloro acid amide derivative. So first thing you have to remember is what? What is acetamide? Acetanilide. So can everybody see the board? NH and methyl C double bond O CH Cl2. It is dichloro acid anilide derivative. Okay, it's a dichloro acid which is connected through a ester linkage to furan at the fourth position. So do you understand the structure? It is an acid anilide, dichloroacetanilide and methylated, which is connected by an ester linkage to your furoic acid at the fourth position. So this is the structure of your dioxinate furet. It's an ester. It's an ester. Okay. The structure is first thing it is, you have to draw the structure of your N-methylated acetanilide, dichloro, CHCl2, which has an OA, which forms an ester with your furoic acid. So this is the structure of dioxinate furet. It's a type of prodrug because this particular ester bond is broken and you get your dioxinate. Okay, to increase the stability in your gastric pH. So that's why it is in an ester form which breaks and it liberates your dioxinate, that is your free OH in the intestine. Okay, this inhibits the protein synthesis of some of the enzyme proteins. So this inhibits some of the enzymes which are necessary for your protein synthesis in your protozoa. They used in cyst forming patients. So they are used in what? Cyst. So wherever there is a cyst, they can be used. So this dioxinate furet is effective against the cyst also. They are used for the treatment of extraintestinal amoebiasis. They are used for the treatment of extraintestinal amoebiasis. So they can act on the cyst. Very important. They can act on the cyst. They can be given orally. They split in the intestine. Most of the dye is absorbed and conjugated to, or they can be metabolized by conjugating with glucuronide and excreted through the urine. The unobserved moiety being is only 10. So only 10% is available for its amoebicidal activity. Rest all gets conjugated with your glucuronide and excreted. So whatever dose you give, only 10% is available for the activity. Because of therapeutic uses, the drug of choice for asymptomatic intestinal infection, that is luminal amoebicide. For eradication of given along with all forms of amoeba. So they can be given along with combination with other types of agents. They are not active against trophozoite because they only can infect the cyst form. Dose around 500 mg 3 times a day for 10 days is the dosage. Adverse effects are like your nausea, vomiting, abdominal cramps, flatulence, diarrhea and ketosis. So these are the adverse effects of dioxinate furet, along with, and it should be contraindicated in pregnancy children below 2 years. Next example is halogenated hydroxyquinoline. So what is quinoline? Quinoline is, okay, so this is quinoline with two fused benzene containing a nitrogen in one of the pyridine in one, that is pyridine fused benzo fused pyridine. It is known as quinoline. and it is 8 hydroxy, means at the 8th position there is an hydroxy group. In case of the two examples of chloroquine and iodocline. So iodocline contains your iodine at the 5th and the 7th position, that is iodoquinol, and chloroquine contains, and your iodine at the 5th position is replaced by your chlorine, that is chloroquine. So this is the example of halogenated hydroxyquinone. They act, so this is the structure of chloroquine and iodoquinol. Okay, how do they act? They act by chelation. Chelation is what? They form a complex with your metals like ferrous ions, which is essential for your protozoal metabolism. So they will trap the iron which is necessary for your protozoal metabolism. And once this iron is not available, that will affect the metabolic process in your protozoal and thus show its effect. And the adverse effects are iodine toxicity, thyroid enlargement, and skin reaction. So these are some of the side effects of your halogenated hydroquinolines. So these are effective against organisms in the GIT only, not on intestinal walls, or so they don't have any systemic effect. They only act on the luminal uh, protozoals. They act as luminal amebocyte, and they are used for the eradication along with tissue image. So they are only given in combination with metronidazole to prevent the systemic, because since they don't act on systemic amebocytes, that's why they are always given in combination with tissue amebocyte. Inactive against trophozoites in intestinal walls and extra intestinal. So they don't have any penetration in the intestinal walls and extra intestinal tissues. They are only effective as a luminal amebocytes. They only act on the trophozoites which are present in the lumen. Side effects, anorexia, headache, rash, and pertussis. Discontinued is if observed persistent of iodine toxicity. So they have, if there is any iodine toxicity, then it has to be discontinued. Next class of drug is organoarsenal. Next class of drug is what? Organoarsenals. First example is carbazole. First example is carbazole. So how do you remember the structure? So it contains an arsenic acid. Okay, first draw an arsenic acid. Arsenic is As, double bond O, and 2 OH. So this is arsenic acid. And at the para position, at the 4th position, there is an urea linkage. There is an urea, that is NH2C double bond O, NH. That is an urea linkage at the para position to your acid, that is arsenic acid. Okay. So this is a structure of carbazole. Okay. This is an example of organoarsenic compound used as an antiprotozoal in treatment of chronic luminal amoebiasis. They act by inactivating enzymes containing sulfhydryl. So this basically forms a complex with sulfhydryl groups containing enzymes and inactivate the enzyme. But these are less favored because of the toxicity. Because of arsenic poisoning, these drugs are less used. But in case severe infections, this can be used. But usually they are avoided because of the arsenic poisoning. Because of the arsenic poisoning. Next example of this class of drugs is melarsoprol. Next example of this class of drug is melarsoprol. So it's an example of triazine. Triaminotriazine, which is fused to an arsenic containing ring. So first is you have to draw a triazine. 1, 2, 3. Nitrogen in a benzene. 1, 2, 3. So 3 carbons in your benzene is replaced by your nitrogen. And every alternating position there is an amino group. NH2, NH2. And the third NH2 is linked to a benzene, which is connected to an disulfide, arsenic disulfide linkage, 5-membered, okay, with a 5-membered ring containing and an OH, methanolic group. Okay, so this is the structure of Millar soprol. Okay, it is a triazine triamino 2,4,6 triamino triazine, which is connected to an benzene containing an arsenic group, 5-membered ring with a disulfide linkage and an CH2OH group. At the 1, 2, 3, at the fourth position, it contains an CH2 methanolic group. So this is the structure of Millar soprol. Its mechanism of action is similar to that of your carbazole by binding to the sulfidyl groups of the protein, thus infecting the cellular functions. They are effective, they are selective to the troposomal enzymes like phosphofructokinase and reductase. These enzymes contain the sulfidyl group. They are very specific to phosphofructokinase and your reductase. They are used in the treatment of African tropanosis, that is sleeping sickness. They are also, because of their tropocidal activity, restricted because of the toxicity. They have got very good penetration. This is why they are used in African tropanosis, because of their high penetration into your CNS system. Okay, and all this troposomal disease cause sleepiness and all. So this is why, that's why these particular drugs are used. Again, they are used for the treatment of meningoencephalitis. Okay, and the side effects are rashes, fever, proteinuria, vomiting, abdominal cramps. Okay, so these are the drugs that are used for luminal amoebolosis. They act basically on the luminal